Well, hello, Mr. Ippolito students. This is Mr. Ippolito, and happy Halloween Eve, October 30th. And I thought, what better way to spend the night before Halloween than going over your test? So I went ahead. Test scores are now completed, and so I wanted to go over the exam questions so you can understand if you got less than a perfect score on each one of the short answer questions. That's really what I want to focus on. Then you can understand why you got the score that you got. Because I left comments on some, I didn't leave comments on all. So I just want you to have a full understanding of why you got the score that you got. So let's start with number 14, which is explain what's going on with this map. So this is an electoral college map from 270towin.com. We've been looking at these maps a lot in class. Why are all the states all different colors? So basically the blue indicates they are more likely to vote for the Democratic candidate. In this case, in this election, it's Joe Biden. The red indicates that they're more likely to vote for the Republican candidate. In this case, it's Donald Trump. And then the darker the color, that means it is more likely based on polling, based on like what the polling the polling data that has been taken from each of these states, it is more likely. So for example, California, our state, is dark blue. And the reason why is because if you take a look at that polling data, if we go to 270towin.com and you click on states up here at the top and voting history and trends, if you look at California, for example, oh my goodness, in the recent elections, like this was how California voted in 2016. 61.7% voted for Hillary Clinton and 31.6% voted for Donald Trump in 2016. If we take a look at the polls, the most recent poll from 3 days ago, 65% for Biden and 29% for Trump. So it is pretty safe to say that California is going to vote for Joe Biden in this election. It's still based on polling, so anything could happen. But if we're going to take an educated guess, California will probably vote Joe Biden, which is why it's dark blue. The same thing with a state like Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Wyoming. They're dark red because it is almost certain that those states are going to vote for Donald Trump. So that's what's going on with dark blue, dark red, light red. And then what's up with brown? So in order to get full credit, you needed to explain not only that these were swing states or battleground states or toss-up states, but you also needed to explain what exactly that means. The fact that the polling is so close. If we take a look at Florida, for example, the polling is so darn close. Let's go back here to Florida. And you take a look at those polls, and oh my goodness, look at these polls. Now, actually, Florida is trending more in the direction of Biden lately. However, still within the margin of error. So I don't think I've explained margin of error yet, but if you look right here, 4.4%, like that's within the margin of error here. And if you take a look at earlier polls, like this is just from a couple days ago. This is from 3 days ago. You have Trump winning in this poll. So if you look at, now this is back in March and April. We really shouldn't look at those polls. Let's look at something a little bit more recent. And you can see for the most part, Biden is winning in most polls in Florida. However, because it is so very close, I still, you got to be careful. So that's why the swing states are really states based on the polling. It could still go either way because again, and this is the last part of the question, the difference between polling and an actual election. In polling, you're just getting people's opinions. You're calling them up. All they need to do is just pick up the phone and answer questions. If the election were held today, would you vote for Joe Biden or Donald Trump or someone else, or you're not sure? Voting, you actually have to make an effort to vote. Some states it's much easier than others, but if you've looked at the news, some states people are standing in line for hours to vote. So it really just depends on your state. Anyway, you needed to kind of explain all that in order to get full credit on question number 14. Let's move on to question 15. 15 says, what was the debate between states' rights and national sovereignty in the 1780s? So really you could have explained all sorts of different things, and I gave you the cartoon to kind of help you out. This is what we learned in class. So most students got that part right, explaining the states' rights versus national sovereignty. Where students lost points on this one was giving an example. You needed to give at least one example from modern day of a conflict today between states' rights and national sovereignty. The most popular example that students gave was the quarantine, coronavirus thing that we're having right now, especially with masks, right? So right now it is more of a states' rights issue where states are deciding on a state-by-state basis. mask policy, social distancing, gatherings, that kind of thing, what those rules should be. There really is no national policy in place, but some people believe that there should be a national policy. So that's that's one example. There were other examples that were given, and some really, really good examples. Some people use the example of the civil rights era. So lots of really good examples, but you needed to use at least one specific example in order to get full credit on question 15. All right. Question 16, what is the power of judicial review? And then explain it using at least one example. So judicial review is the power that the Supreme Court, the federal court system, has to declare laws, federal laws, state laws, or executive actions unconstitutional. And you needed to give at least one example. Now, a very popular example was the example of Brown versus Board of Education that got rid of segregation, right? So in other words, there were state laws that allowed segregation, the separation of black and white in schools with drinking fountains, restrooms, all of that. So that was a very popular example. Others used the 2015 Obergefell case, the Supreme Court case that ruled that the laws that did not allow for same-sex marriage, the laws in certain states that said you could only get married to someone of the opposite sex, that Supreme Court case in 2015 struck down all of those state laws. So you basically had to provide an example. Others used the Roe versus Wade 1973 Supreme Court decision. So you had to provide an example where the Supreme Court overruled or struck down either a national law or state laws in order to provide at least one example of the power of judicial review. Okay, so that was number 16. Number 17, gosh, so many good responses here. Where students lost points really was either because you didn't use 3 examples, and it says in bold, use at least 3 different quotes. So if you didn't use 3 quotes, you lost points. And then, what do you believe Douglas is saying about American independence, the 4th of July, the state of our nation? Use specific examples and analyze those examples thoughtfully. So if you just threw out the quotes and you're like, I think he's saying this, I think he's saying this. If the analysis was brief, that's what I mean by analysis, is take the source, take the quotes, and interpret them thoughtfully. That's what I meant by that. So if you didn't provide enough analysis or if you didn't use enough quotes, that was why you lost points on number 17. And then finally, number 18, as long as you gave me at least a little something, then I gave you the full 5 points because I'm always happy to receive your feedback to find out, first of all, how you're doing in class, how you're doing personally, and then how I can do better on creating future exams for our class. All right, so I'm going to stop talking. I think that's it. Once again, happy end of October. I look forward to seeing you in November. We have 2 more exciting school days ahead of us before the big election on Tuesday, November 3rd. Super excited to once again share our experiences together when we see each other again in class. All right, thanks so much. Have a wonderful day. Have a great weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.